the crown, roll keys to bats. My team, my vision, placing both bets. Strategies drawn with passion and might. Great iron tactics will overnight. Set my line up, it's time, gotta make that call. Dynasty dreams, I won't let them fall. Every yard, every play, it's all on me. The future's bright, champions you'll see. Hold the line and fight the sound. In Dynasty, we'll own this ground. Trading players, build it strong. In this league, we'll right the wrong.
It is Derek from the Fantasy Flyer back. We are in our Charge into Battle series. This is part 3 of 5, where we are reviewing all 10 teams and ranking them as we go into the season. And I don't need to go through all this again. We are going to jump right in to our first team. Today's two teams are Pigeon Commander, Zach Graham, the commissioner of Fiddy Tree, as well as Little Buff Boys headed by Jimmy Osborne. And we're going to talk about how the rosters are set looking in. So let's go right into it. We'll start with PC. Currently, everybody's about 6 to 8 wins. Dorn is at 5 to 7, according to how the numbers kind of work out. Dorn 6.9 team ranking, 7.2 for Rob, 7.2 for Colton, Whack at 7.4. And to be honest, I think that there's going to be some heavy competition between the remaining teams to see if that 7.4 holds up. But we're going to start right now with PC's team. We'll start with the quarterback position: Derek Carr, Lamar Jackson, and Jalen Hurts.
It's like a white rain of 1,000 loads.
Yep, that'll do it. I think that there's really good... I mean, these are guys that score points, right? Like, Derek Carr didn't even have a great year last year at 298 points. So, like, how am I going to sit here and say a lot about, like, Jalen Hurts and Lamar Jackson are two of the top 6 fantasy quarterbacks. So I just got done doing my redraft leagues, and they both went very high. For PC, I'm going to give this an 8.3. I think this is probably one of the better. Not only that, there's a depth piece there that you can use. No overlapping buys, which is kind of important. He has the handcuffs for all of them. Good start at the 8.3. For the running back position, Brian Robinson, Devin Singletary, Breece Hall. Breece Hall, obviously, fantastic lead back for this group. Interesting to see how Brian Robinson gets affected by the incumbent, Austin Eckler. Devin Singletary, is that offense going to be good enough to do anything with anyone whose name doesn't start or end with Malik or Neighbors? So I'm not, like, the bottom half of this group is concerning to me, but obviously you have Breece Hall there. Hall is probably going to have a 1,000-yard season on the ground and another 400 in the air, 300 to 400 in the air. And probably you may even have a little bit more on the ground and in the air. It all depends on how this works with Aaron Rodgers. So, a couple of dart throws in here, too, that I like. Jarrett Patterson, Cordero Patterson as well, both Pattersons. And Emmanuel Wilson, who, could be valuable. Could make an appearance given Green Bay's backfield position with health. A.J. Dillon out for the season. Marshawn Lloyd already facing injuries. We haven't even started the season. So, I am going to say for this group and the way that it's been positioned, I don't think it's the best RB group that we've seen so far. Oh, it's close. Because you did have, Doran had a 7.4 at that RB position. I think Breece obviously being a top 6 at the position, top 5, top 6 at the position. Brian Robinson's top 12 or 14, you could expect, maybe 15. Let's say top 15. And then where does Devin Singletary crack in this list for the running back position? I think there are certain handcuffs, maybe not handcuffs, but certain split backfields where you're going to see both running backs in a certain backfield be higher ranked and more proficient than Devin Singletary will be this year. But Devin Singletary isn't bad, so there's a little bit of a question mark considering what the New York Giants offense is. I'm going to go with a 7.1 for PC. And I'm being just a hair nice here, just because that like I do think Singletary kind of picked up Houston the second half of the season with Houston last year, and I do think Brian Robinson is the lead 1-2 down back with Washington, probably also the goal line back. So 7.1 there is my numbers. To the wide receiver position for PC, Mike Evans, Tyler Lockett, Brandon Cook, Jamar Chase, AJ Brown. Yep. I mean, it's tough to say that this isn't a surprise from where everything was last year. He dropped the right pieces, traded the right pieces. Yeah, like, uh, doing Dorn's. When we did Dorn's team, and he had C.D. Lamb and Jordan Addison and Deontay Johnson, and then coming over and looking at this, I feel like this is just a better group. AJ Brown, it pairs up with starting quarterback Jalen Hurts, obviously. Mike Evans has 17,000 straight 1,000-yard seasons. Um, Jamar Chase should figure his contract out and start. I think he is going to start with Cincinnati, if I read the last report correctly. And I think that they're just going to kind of put it aside for right now. Could be wrong on that. But looking at all of that, there's some solid depth here. Brandon Cooks. Calvin Austin, I think, is going to be underrated this year. Roman Wilson is there. I'm going to go with 8-5. And that's just because you have two huge starters in Jamar Chase and A.J. Brown. So 8-5 for the wide receivers. Tight end position. Mark Andrews, Tyler Conklin, Evan Ingram. It's really Ingram and Andrews, right? I mean, if we were concerned about salary, it would have popped up before now in this sense. Evan Ingram had 232 fantasy points. He was fourth in the league in receptions last year. Mark Andrews already got in a car accident and is back on the playing field. He had some missed time last year with the ankle injury. But a really good group here. I am gonna say it's not quite on the level that we had when we were talking about Kelsey and Kincaid with Whack. I think Andrews is slowly backing out of his major pass catching role at that tight end position. His age is coming into him. I think Evan Ingram, who is also now 30, I believe, or 31. I think you may see him. I mean, regression is probably inevitable. It's just how far for him. So for me, I'm gonna go. I mean, you're gonna have two solid options into the year. You can trust both of them to be effective in their offenses. They both have good quarterbacks. They are. This will be a 7-6. I'm gonna go 7-6 for the tight end position. And then defensively, DeForest Buckner, Micah Parsons, Kayvon Thibodeau, Dallas Turner, Levante David, Foyesade Oluokun, Quay Walker, Javon Bullard, Kevin Byard, Jordan Whitehead, Tyson Campbell, Byron Murphy. Another strong defensive core here. I like the defensive tackle, defensive end position. Demario Davis is starting to trail a little bit. Foyesade Oluokun is very expensive, but I think it makes sense given the points that you have from these gentlemen. I'm going to go with a 7.5 for this defense. I like how there's complementary pieces, and what I mean by that is I like how there's a lot of different options that between divisions when I'm looking at this. So, and it's between the positions. It's not all at one position, but you have, there's Detroit, there's New Orleans, there's Jacksonville. So New Orleans, Jacksonville, Cincinnati, Green Bay. I didn't notice this. I wasn't really looking at this with the first couple teams that I did this on, so forgive me if I'm just adding it in, so to speak, now. But it looks like it's kind of spread where you have, depending on the matchup, somebody's going to face a weaker division where there could be some strengths there. I don't think that was intentional on PC's part. That take a lot of forethought, but it is just something that I did happen to pop in. There are a couple, obviously, at the same, there's Anthony Jennings and Quentin Williams, both in the AFC East. Quay Walker and Alex Anzalone, NFC North. just a couple examples. Javon Bullard and Kevin Byard, both in the AFC North as well. But I don't know. I pointed that out. I didn't really look at it with the other teams, so they may be much less of a surprise as it now as it could be, or back then as it could be. So that leaves an 8.3 for the quarterback, 7.1 for the running backs, 8.5 for the wide receivers, 7.6 for tight end, 7.5 for defense. This is going to be the clubhouse leader for sure right now. The bigger they are, the harder they fall. I'm going to give this a 7.9 for PC. And again, that number I believe is higher than it was last year, but I'm spreading out a little bit more as far as these grades go. So keep that in mind. I think this is probably a playoff team. I mean, Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, great start. Breece Hall, sure. You got Chase and Brown. You can have off games around those guys, and this could lead to some losses. But I'm going to go with 8 to 9 wins. And it could be, 10's not out of the cards, right? But you only have a 13-week season, right? So, all right, that's going to do for Team 1. I'm going to go back to these rosters. I'll just keep the video rolling as that was a pretty quick one for PC. And we are going to go on to Little Buff Boys. Our man, Jimmy, who I just went by his team. Keep clicking on things and they don't go. Oops. All right, and we'll start with the quarterback position. Jared Goff, Baker Mayfield, C.J. Stroud. C.J. Stroud, a great young piece, got hammered in arbitration. Baker Mayfield did really well for 22. I mean, he had more fantasy points than C.J. Stroud last year. I don't know if a lot of people could remember that off the top of their head. Really solid is the way I put this. You want to see C.J. Stroud creep into that Dak Prescott profile of just being a gunslinger and also maybe being able to take off and run at times. I think I want to see his decisiveness in the backfield be a little bit better. There were a couple times last year where he got a little out of sorts back there, but all in all, can you blame, that was a fantastic rookie year. He stepped up and did everything that the Houston Texans could want and more. Doesn't quite creep up on the Jalen Hurts and Lamar Jackson group we just saw from Zach. So you do have Jared Goff, who had a very good year, in C.J. Stroud, and I do want to point those are probably the two starters for Jimmy at this point. I'm going to give him a 7.4. I'm going to put him right there with Rob and Colton. I think it's just. And Baker being a good solid option. And Aiden O'Connell still could be useful later, barring, should an injury happen. So 7.4 for me for Jimmy. To the running back position, Isaiah Pacheco, James Conner, Aaron Jones, David Montgomery, Raheem Mostert, Jalen Warren. There is not a week goes, assuming they're all healthy, there's not a week that will go by where the matchup isn't going to depend on, or isn't going to dictate who Jimmy starts at the running back position. There's some age here. We'll cross that bridge. I guess that's more of an off-season question, but James Conner at 31, Aaron Jones at 30, David Montgomery's 28, Raheem Mostert 32, Pacheco 25, Jalen Warren 25. So, to me, I mean, you're going to probably end up starting Pacheco most weeks, and then potentially... I mean, at that point, actually, it could go up in the air, right? Aaron Jones may not be in a great matchup. That's not a great offense anymore without. It's not the same person passing the ball, so that could go two ways with Aaron Jones, right? James Conner probably going to lose some attention and some snaps over the course of the year. David Montgomery probably going to fall behind Jahmyr Gibbs in Detroit. Raheem Mostert, question marks around that Miami backfield year round. If he stays healthy, he's going to be useful. You cannot expect him to have the same amount of touchdowns, and he will probably regress a solid amount. All in all, effectiveness, this is, for me, this might be in like a B to B plus range just because you have so many different options, and two of these six, somewhere, at least two, have to have good matchups 99% of the weeks. So, I'm going to give this a 7.4. I think that makes sense just because of the flexibility with the matchups. Looking at their effectiveness, I don't really know what to expect out of Aaron Jones. He wasn't super healthy last year, going into an offense that people don't really know what to expect. James Conner, like I said, will probably fall back a little bit. I'm comfortable with a 7.4. There are some good offenses here. Detroit, Miami, Kansas City. Back-to-back 7.4s. For zip-offs. To the wide receiver position, Justin Jefferson, Zay Flowers, Tank Dell, Brian Thomas Jr., Calvin Ridley. This is a really good group. Justin Jefferson getting up there in price, but again, offseason issue, not a starting lineup issue, not a team context issue. That's a salary and front office issue. I think there is a substantial gap below Justin Jefferson that we did not see with PC, where you had Jamar Chase and next on the list is AJ Brown. After Justin Jefferson here, you're probably looking at Zay Flowers. I mean, he outscored Justin Jefferson last year, but Justin Jefferson missed like 6 weeks. And Zay Flowers, I think, only missed a couple. So, assuming Zay has a little bit more of a target share, I'm okay with representing that gap in my rankings a little bit more than I probably would. Or I'm not as okay, I should say. Yeah, this is tough. I'm going to go with a 7.5. And I'll give it that. There are some good youth pieces. Brian Thomas is a rookie. Luke McCaffrey, rookie. Quentin Johnson in the second year. I like the pickup of Quentin Johnston as a dart throw piece for $3. Sure, why not? If it works out, great. You're going to have a usable wide receiver. If it doesn't and he continues to be as ineffective as he was last year, you can just dump him and that's fine. Calvin Ridley, question marks on what that offense is going to look like as well. I think this is a gunslinger offense. This is going to be more of a throw. A Will Levis can go out there and kind of get it up deep. Calvin Ridley is also 30 or 31 years old, but he should be solidly effective in Tennessee. I mean, it's between him and Hopkins for the 1-2 here. So, yeah, I'm going to go 7.5. I think that's a fair number. It's tough with Justin Jefferson, and a lot of these wide receiver groups are in that mid to upper 7 range. I may actually bump that up. I'm going to give that a 7.7. I'm changing my mind. Changing my vote. 7.7 at the wide receiver group. I'm going to give a little bit more. I got to respect that a little bit more. Jaden Reed, I think, is being underwritten by me. And that's not fair. So, several options there, which is important at the wide receiver group. I'll match him with Wack, who has, I think, just as many options, but also could have some explosive players on Wack's roster. So, I'll sit with the 7.7 there. Tight end position: Greg Dulcich, George Kittle, Dalton Schultz. It's really Kittle and Schultz, right? This one I think is a little bit under what we just saw from Zach's. So I think we're going to end up going into somewhere around the third option here for the tight end position. I'm of a 7.3 here. I'll go 7.4. It is George Kittle. Dalton Schultz got target competition up the rear end. Greg Dulcich has a rookie quarterback. Despite how the tight end might be a good dump down option for Bo Nix, I will go 7.4. I don't know what I said before, but I think I said 7.3. I'm moving at 7.4 because I like George Kittle. I do like him. Yeah, it's really, this is interesting the way some of these teams are really matching up. I do really like this. I like the last 3 tight end rooms we've really done. But tight end it's a little bit of a different position for some of these guys. And I like that there's at least 2 options for some of these teams. So, that said, we move on to the defense. Dorrance Armstrong, Jonathan Greener, Jermaine Johnson, Leatu Latu, the rookie Josh Sweat, Jordan Brooks, Blake Cashman, Landon Roberts, Roquan Smith, Peyton Wilson, Deron Bland, Kamari Lassiter, Keyshawn Nixon, Kyle Duggar, Tyron Matthew. He also has Bradley Chubb on IR already. Down here. I don't know if this is going to be. On paper, this doesn't look like the most. This might be one of the sneakier defenses that we've done so far. Because there's some ceilings that can be hit here. Deron Bland is going to miss 6 to 8 weeks of the season, so it's rough to see him. Already we're seeing some of this fall off. To be honest, 6 to 8 weeks is going to put him at least on the other side of the bye. So, I'm a big fan of this being somewhere in like the 6-8 range, and I'm probably not giving it as much respect as it should get. There's some sleeping here by me if it comes out as explosive. There's a lot of defensive ends, a lot of divisions here too. Now that I brought it up, with Zach's team, Carolina and Atlanta, Miami, Tampa Bay is in that same. There's Dallas, there's Houston, there's Green Bay, there's the Patriots. I don't know. Maybe I'm noticing things that don't matter. But yeah, I'm gonna go with I'll give it a 6-9. I'll go up one a little because there's some youth here that could explode like it did at the end of last season. One of the more consistent teams. I don't have to really think on this one much. It's a 7.4, and it's probably one of the more balanced teams. I'll go in the same 6 to 8 wins. Do I think I think at some point we're going to end up talking to the fact that a lot of these teams being 500 isn't going to be exactly a surprise. Trying to split these. The tough part about doing this for the show, and it's something that I have to say out loud, is that you don't know where injuries are going to fall. The first, Justin Jefferson, A.J. Brown, Rashad White, Jonathan Taylor, the first, Patrick Mahomes, C.J. Stroud, any one of these guys that goes out for an extended period of time, it sways these teams in such a different direction. So I'm going based off the actual on paper effectiveness of what I can expect and what I think I should expect to see. And it's extremely difficult at this point because a lot of these have where one team is stronger at quarterback and wide receiver, they may not be at running back or at tight end, or they may not be at defense and at wide receiver where they are at running back and quarterback, and they're decent at tight end, and it's a really big balancing act with some of these guys. But so far the only one that's really stood out is PCs, and that's just because of the amount of top 20 talent that he has, top 40 talent in the all of fantasy football that is on that team. Jamar Chase, Breece Hall, AJ Brown, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, Mark Andrews, Evan Ingram is probably creeping onto that top 40, at least top 60, right? So there's a lot that's going on into that factors into that decision. I think with the rest of these guys, there are pieces that need to move forward, and at a certain point, it comes down to which team is just going to be better on paper, and without looking at the matchups, even getting into these, a lot of these teams are 7.4. We have 2 teams at 7.2, 2 teams at 7.4. On certain weeks, the 7.4s are 5.5s, and the 7.2s are 8.6s, and then on other weeks, it's vice versa. And you're going to see big differences for each one, and that could just be matchup central with the teams in real life. That might not even be what happens with the actual football scoring and how the fantasy lineups are set, and if somebody sets the right fantasy lineup. So all of those things matter. I'm just going based off of whether there's the ability there for these teams. And so far, the exception of PCs, most of these guys are in the same realm. And it could be a big toss-up between 4 or 5 teams as for the last 1 or 2 slots in the playoffs. So with all of that being said, this has been Derek. It's part 3 of the Charge into Battle series. No real surprises so far, I don't think. You know, I haven't looked at the rosters going into this. I'm saving it for the video so that I can kind of break it down a little bit and see where the strengths of each roster are, what the capabilities of them are. So, with that being said, you know how we end the videos around here. We will see you for part 4 in a couple days on Wednesday, as well as part 5. So look for those on Wednesday. I believe that is the 3rd of September. If I'm not, no, the 4th of September. That is the 4th of September. So September 4th, look for part 4 and part 5. You can watch those videos Wednesday and or Thursday before we have our season kickoff of the 2024 NFL season Thursday night with the Ravens and the Chiefs, I believe. So, you guys take care. You know how we do it. Catch you later. Pieces out. Deuces mobile. Whatever you want to say.
Bob Barker reminding you, help control the pet population. Have your pet spayed or neutered. Goodbye, everybody.